Welcome friends to another Dune video. Today we look to the chapter houses of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, such as Wallach 9, and we draw on the Dune Encyclopaedia. What goes on in these chapter houses? Let's find out. There were once 12. The Sisterhood's education was based in them, and you'd be taught different things at different houses. It was the house in Wallach 9 that governed. The early Wallach facilities housed no more than 12,000 people and had accommodation, a record-holding facility, training schools for mytho-expansionists, which is possibly an early area of what would become the Bene Gesserit's Missionaria Protectiva, cultural ecologists and environmental social planners, and over time things grew and the administration needed facilities. Executive, legislative, judicial and ambassadorial officers, meeting rooms and residential apartments. In each chapter house the female offspring from the sisters' breeders, and those not affiliated with either a house, major or minor, were cared for in a kinder house, and the attaching, birthing and caring facilities. There was also a primary school, and this facility educated both Bene Gesserit and females from upper-class families, i.e. major houses. The attached schools of higher education offered secondary level instruction to both groups of females, as well as university instruction to Bene Gesserit sisters. Some of the chapter houses were more specialised, focusing on training the sisters in specific professions. One was theological and philosophical training, and they would contain reference libraries to support their studies. There were also underground ceremonial halls containing the Horned Goddess and inscriptions from the Book of Azar, which contains information on many religions. It was a hall of ritual for them. Perhaps they practiced what they would pretend to have faith in when they journeyed out into the wider Imperium, so as not to stand out, or to understand how others saw religion so that they could use that to manipulate them. Another area of teaching was to breeders, who would specifically be skilled up to marry those from aristocratic families. Another area they would teach would be martial arts training, and perhaps this would tie them to weapons expertise in some houses. A Bene Gesserit is trained in some of the arts of the Guild swordsman in one of the novels by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. Some houses specialised in music and the arts, but these areas were never considered that important to the sisterhood and what they wanted to achieve. There would of course have also been schools to teach the Bene Gesserit abilities such as reading people's body language and understanding your own mind to control your body's responses to things. One house is noted as having thrived as a centre of business administration and accounting, and people from there would handle the statements for the chapter houses' incomes annually. Another school specialised in history and linguistics. A house on Gamont specialised in training breeders who would go out to be concubines for houses major and minor. Bene Gesserits would return there for their specialised training in new techniques and for refresher courses. The records from there are highly valued by the order, perhaps because of its nature in terms of who it served. That chapter house had a men's accommodation, entertainment and health centres, so perhaps partners would return with their Bene Gesserit other halves and stay there whilst the Bene Gesserit sisters trained. Or another theory, and I think this is more likely, the men stayed there so the Bene Gesserit could have practical training of what they had learned. The Dune Encyclopaedia tells us there was once a chapter house on Gidi Prime. The training there was in espionage, which I think is very appropriate. Perhaps some insight into war of assassins and poisons that can be administered. The facilities there are camouflaged and reinforced. And the final chapter house we will cover is on Tleilax. At least it was there. The Bene Gesserit claim they have no current contacts there. Yet Tleilax is one of the few worlds to still have folk myths current among its population about weirding women, assassins and twisted mentats, leading linguistic mythologists to believe that the Bene Gesserit has been active there at some point in the planet's history, and parts of what they did there was linked to the Missionaria Protectiva and the seeding of it across the Emperor's Imperium. So now friends, I turn things over to you. Got something to add? Drop me a comment down below.